Hello, everyone, and welcome to another very, very special edition of Sessa's Corner. My special guest this time around, allow me to introduce. I have here Mr. Brian Haggerty, a.k.a. Groucho. We have Al, Brother Voodoo, and we have Brother Itchy, a.k.a. Joe. So, who are these gentlemen, you may ask? Well, they are members of a wonderful, wonderful organization called the Flying Deuces. Flying Deuces happens to be a local tent, part of the International Sons of the Desert, a worldwide Laurel and Hardy fan appreciation organization for Laurel and Hardy fans everywhere. And I would be willing to say that most of you, if not all of you, I'm sure, are fans of Laurel and Hardy in one way, shape, or form, or not, I would think. Okay? So, exactly what is the Sons of the Desert, the Flying Deuces, and how did this wonderful organization come to be? Well, we're going to explore that tonight, and we're going to basically open up all of your eyes to the existence of this organization, and we're going to have some laughs along the way, Laurel and Hardy style.
Gee, that's swell, Ali.
With that said, ladies and gentlemen, so Brother Voodoo, you're, I understand the longest member of the organization, and here, yes, and
among us, right?
Among us, yes, and of course, there's several other members of the Flying Deuces tent who are obviously not with us tonight, but we're going to talk about how did this organization come to be. Kind of take us through the history and how we got here tonight.
Sure. So the Sons of the Desert was started with the blessings of Stan Laurel by a number of guys in 1965. Unfortunately, Stan passed just before the first meeting, so he missed that, but he was part of the formation of it, and it was formed by several guys, including John McCabe, who's the premier biographer of Laurel and Hardy, Orson Bean, Al Kilgore, who is a famous cartoonist and comedian, and several other guys in 1965. The first tent, each chapter is called a tent.
Yes.
Sons of the Desert is our namesake movie that the organization is named after.
One of the best.
And so the New York tent is, each tent is given an Oasis number in the order in which they joined.
Okay.
So obviously the founding tent in New York is Oasis number 1. We, the Flying Deuces of Northern New Jersey, are Oasis number 8. We're the 8th oldest. There's 360, 370 some odd chapters have been formed. Probably half of them are probably still active, regularly active, but that's how many have been formed. And we were formed on April 15th, 1968, 3 years after the organization was formed. We were formed by several guys who were in the Army and a MASH unit together. And they used to watch Laurel and Hardy movies for amusement. And when they got out of the service, they wanted to keep together, so they started watching the movies like on a regular basis, and then wound up joining the Sons of the Desert to be the first suburban chapter in the organization.
That's his heart. He has a pacemaker.
Yeah, that's
That's somebody that wants to join the organization. Right?
He gets calls every day. 20 calls a day he gets.
I'm going to shut this off so it doesn't bother us. There we go. We are the only chapter of all the chapters that have been formed that still remains true to the format in the movie, which is all male. We get some gas from that, and we get some applause from that. It's sort of a shtick in a way, but we are the only all-male tent in the Sons of the Desert. Now, there's some history why we personally are that way, but one of the key reasons is to stay true to the club that's in the movie.
Understood. And you mentioned April 15th, 1968 as the beginning of this.
That was our first meeting.
So tax day. So there's one way of dealing with tax day right there, and take our mind off of Uncle Sam and our obligations to Uncle Sam, and and get together and talk Laurel and Hardy and all that. I mean, that's definitely one way to.
None of us have paid taxes in 50 years. It's part of
the three founding members were Alan A.D. Hembrow, Steve Erno Cesario,
okay,
and Bill Willie Hamill. Willie recently has passed on, but Alan and Steve are still very active. They both have a little bit of health issues, so they weren't able to join us tonight.
Yep.
But they attend the meetings and the conventions. As a matter of fact, Steve Erno is one of the 9 or 10 people that has attended every single international convention.
Wow. Okay. He gets around.
Yeah. So
that's his reputation.
2 of the remaining 9 or 10 people that are in the Deuces. So we're pretty proud of that.
That's a very impressive stat right there, to say the least.
And how many years have the conventions happened?
This next one coming, it's every other, so every even number year, there's an international convention.
Yeah.
Every odd number year, there's a European convention.
Okay.
And every single year, there's a UK convention, because you may know that Stan Laurel was from England.
Correct.
Ulverston, England. And so they have a huge fan base there. Many tents.
Oh, I could imagine.
And so they have their own UK convention. I've been to 5 or 6 of them. They're hilarious. And they have one every single year, the first weekend in May. Last year, of course, it was canceled.
This past year, yeah, of course.
Past year, and now
like everything else, unfortunately.
And just like the international conventions and the European conventions, it's in a different city every time. This one was supposed to be in Greenock, Scotland.
Oh, okay.
I was all set to go, and now they have just canceled it again this year.
Oh, wow.
For last year, so it's going to be in 22.
Okay.
Our convention was supposed to be, the international convention, was supposed to be last year in Rhode Island. Obviously, COVID.
Yep.
So we pushed it up to this year, and now within the last week or two,
right,
they've had to cancel it again.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now it's canceled altogether, the Rhode Island convention. So the next international convention is going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 2022.
Okay.
Home of Breaking Bad.
Exactly. Another one of my favorite shows, and to say the least. But so the organization obviously gets around, and obviously once things continue to stabilize with COVID and everything, hopefully by 2022, these conventions, as you said, will be able to pick back up and everything, and
even the conventions in America, a lot of people from England and other countries come to that also.
Yeah.
So it's truly international.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, they sound like incredible times.
They're fun. They're really
fun. For Laurel and Hardy fans, and even if you're not, let's say, direct fans of Laurel and Hardy, but you just love classic comedy or classic films, classic movies, just or classic TV in general. I mean, you're definitely familiar with Laurel and Hardy and what they brought to the comedy genre. I mean, they were basically the first powerhouse comedy team to really kind of come along. I mean, they go back to, if I'm not mistaken, the 20s, with the silent films and everything. I mean, I had the pleasure of being exposed to Laurel and Hardy as a youngster, thanks to my father, my late father, who I lost about 8 years ago, a little over 8 years ago now. God rest his soul. He was a big fan, and he kind of indoctrinated me into, watching Laurel and Hardy, and I became an instant fan. And I remember how excited I used to get whenever one of their movies would be on. Usually WPIX Channel 11, or sometimes the old Channel 5 before it became Fox and all that. That's where you'd find it back then, before obviously the advent of cable and everything else that we now have at our disposal today. And they weren't always on a regular basis back then. And when you found a Laurel and Hardy movie, that was being shown, I mean, it's like you moved heaven and earth to make sure that you were going to watch it. And of course,
we had the Chuck McCann show.
Yeah, Voodoo and I were blessed because when we were kids, like in the late 50s, early 60s,
right,
Chuck McCann had a 4-hour TV show every Sunday where he would show the Three Stooges short, an Abbott and Costello TV show, Laurel and Hardy, Superman, Popeye, Bozo, and it was like, wonderful for a kid.
What a collection.
It was wonderful.
What a
and he had
combination.
puppets, and he sang, and he dressed up as Sunday funny characters like Dondi and Little Orphan Annie.
Dondi.
Yeah, and it was just wonderful for a little kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, to see Laurel and Hardy and Three Stooges all at the same time on one Sunday show.
I can imagine. That sounds like heaven to me.
It was heaven. It was heaven. It was heaven.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I have, as you see here, I have a couple of my, DVD collections of Laurel and Hardy. This one in particular being the main one, which pretty much has the bulk of their shorts and films on it. And, I can watch them all day long, over and over and over again, and still laugh just as hard as if I'm watching it for the very first time. And I think we can all share that sentiment, to say the least. But as you all know, I mean, I'm obviously very interested in, eventually joining the organization as things open up, in the near future, and I look forward to getting involved. I can't believe that I just found out about this recently. I'm just kind of stunned that I didn't hear about this sooner. But but as they say, better late than never, and I'm really looking forward to becoming a part of this. It's right up my alley. But I want to take a moment to kind of talk a little bit about our respected love for Laurel and Hardy, and maybe kind of how it all got started for us. Again, I've shared the story about my father kind of exposing me, and then the rest was really history for me. But for you guys, like, how did you guys get started with becoming Laurel and Hardy fans?
Well, again, with Chuck McCann showing us every Sunday Laurel and Hardy, and then he had a daily show also where he would show Laurel and Hardy shorts. So we were indoctrinated very, very young, very early on. And same thing with Abbott and Costello and the Three Stooges. And it's funny because in 1958, when I was about 5 years old, TV was still in its infancy.
Yes.
And to put it in perspective, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein was only released 10 years earlier, which is always one of my favorite movies. And I think the movie I've seen the most of in my life, I believe, And so, we watched all the stuff on TV, and then with the Three Stooges being syndicated, they started a whole new career, and they started doing movies again,
Yeah.
So being 5, 6 years old and seeing Three Stooges on TV, and then seeing new movies with the Three Stooges, and here they're going to Venus, and they're meeting Hercules, and all this stuff. It was like just wonderful,
Absolutely.
So, so it was just great with Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges. It was just so pleasurable.
Absolutely. Those were the days, as they say.
My dad used to buy these Black Hawk films before there was, VCRs and DVDs and all that. And so he would buy, show them on 8mm, and so we had a whole bunch of Laurel and Hardy films to view in addition to the TV shows that Itchy's talking about. And I first became aware of the Flying Deuces when I grew up in Ridgewood, up in Bergen County, and Ridgewood hosts the largest 4th of July parade in the state of New Jersey. And 1968, I'm at my regular viewing spot, and there's this bunch of guys with this 65 or whatever it is, Willie's Jeep, and motorcycle and sidecar, and they're clowning around, and it was the Deuces.
Wow, they were in the parade.
They were in the parade.
Wow.
And so I contacted the parade committee, found out all about them, and I wound up joining in November of '68, which was they had just celebrated their 20th anniversary as a chapter, as a tent. So
Incredible.
I've been ever
88.
88, thank you.
I was gonna say 20.
Yeah, 88. 20 years, thank you, Groucho. And have enjoyed being a member ever since. We have officers per the Constitution, which is Stan had a part in writing.
That's
Stan
right.
Laurel had a part in writing. Where you have the Grand Sheik, or Grand Sheikh is the proper, but everybody says Grand Sheik.
Sounds better.
Vice Sheik.
Grand being the operative word.
Right. Like the president, for example. The Vice Sheik, who has almost no responsibility.
Right.
The Grand Vizier, who's the treasurer, and the Sub-Vice Vizier, the Grand Vizier, who's the secretary who does the minutes.
Yeah, the Sub-Vice Vizier is the treasurer.
And the Sub-Vice Vizier is the treasurer. And we have, our tent has officer elections every year.
Okay.
Some tents, the Grand Sheik will start his tent or her tent and be the Grand Sheik for life, so to speak.
Dictatorship.
Yes.
In our tent, we have elections every year in the fall. All offices can be repeated except for the Grand Sheik. The Grand Sheik can only serve one consecutive year. And now I've been Grand Sheik, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, in all my years.
And he is currently our Grand Sheik.
The current Grand Sheik. But then next year, someone else will be the Grand Sheik.
Understood. Okay, and that gives everybody the opportunity. And
yeah, we call him Shake Your Booty. Shake Your Booty, right, Janae?
Yeah.
Grand Shake Your Booty.
Well, I tell you, I had the pleasure. I had the pleasure of attending the last meeting that you guys had, which, of course, currently all the meetings are being held via Zoom in light of the current COVID pandemic, and hopefully we're getting closer to light at the end of the tunnel with that. But I tell you, I had such a great time, and even though I know you weren't on that one that night, but I got a chance to meet some of you via Zoom. And I know I didn't get a chance to meet everybody, but I got a good chunk of the current membership and was on the call, and people from all over the state, obviously. And I can't tell you how much fun it was to be a part of that experience, that conversation, just talking about Laurel and Hardy, and I remember I had a grueling day at work that day, and so I was a little stressed out. And what a way to help me unwind from all of that. It was a Friday night, and it was just a great way to kind of unwind, relax me and get me set for the weekend.
And nothing is taken seriously with us, which is great.
Oh, no.
No
We don't take anything serious.
Yeah, no matter what. Yeah. And we have a very eclectic group of guys also.
Extremely.
Like A.D. Hembro, we were saying, is Santa Claus, but he's pretty much Santa Claus all year round. Because he's Santa Claus in his heart. Looks like Santa Claus, like Burl Ives.
Yes.
And he does orphanages and hospitals, just a lovely fellow. He's written books on being Santa Claus. Erno, who Voodoo referred to before, is a expert on World's Fairs. We have a fellow, Joey B., who's an expert on the chapter serials of the 40s and 50s. And Bugsy is a film historian. We have Frenchie, whose father was the illustrator for the Shadow magazine, the pulp magazine, back in the 40s and 50s.
And iRobot. Huh? Isn't that on the cover of iRobot?
Yes. And if you know This Island Earth, the Universal Monster movie, Frenchie's father was the inspiration, his drawings, for the Metaluna mutant from This Island Earth. And we have authors in the tent and musicians and all of
Director.
this. So,
Director.
That's
very eclectic, very eclectic.
I could see that. And you said Bugsy, and you said, of course, we have Voodoo and yourself, Itchy. We have Groucho. You mentioned Frenchie. So, as everybody can see, everybody in the club eventually gets a nickname.
Well, Ollie, these are their real names. Now, there's the tent names. I'm only kidding.
But to clarify, so everybody eventually gets a nickname that's given to them that eventually sticks. And tell me a little bit more about like the origin of the nicknames, how they, like how they come to be. And,
Well, I'll just tell you with my experience. 1992, my best friend Bob, whom I've known for now 56 years, who married my wife and married my wife's sister and became my brother-in-law. He and I were in the Meadowlands racetrack one night when these guys were in the racetrack also.
It was an Oliver Hardy night.
Exactly. And we got to know them, and they seemed like the same kind of humor as we have.
Perfect place to meet.
Yeah, yeah. And there was one of the races, and one of the horses was named Ralphie Boy. And of course, the Honeymooners was sort of like based on Laurel and Hardy. And nobody was betting on Ralphie Boy. And my friend Bob says, you got to bet on Ralphie Boy.
How could you not?
But nobody did. And of course, my friend Bob did, and he won whatever he won, So anyway, we joined the tent shortly after. But because Bob and I were so close, they named us Itchy and Scratchy because at that time The Simpsons was really a craze at that time. So they named us Itchy and Scratchy at that time. So that's how we got our name.
I never knew that.
Yes.
I'm learning something new every day.
We have somebody called Krusty the Clown also around that time.
Another Simpsons character.
Yeah, Simpsons character. Because it was a craze
I
back in the early 90s.
I absolutely love the aura of everybody with nicknames and what have you. Now, Brian, you're Groucho because of, from what I understand, you're very well known for your impersonations of the
I wouldn't say I'm well known for my Groucho.
Do it, Groucho, do it.
No. Because then it's out there. And I don't want to be out there. I'll be judged. No, Joe dragged me into this whole menagerie back in 2012. I'm the junior member. I'm the baby of the group.
For now.
For now, right.
Yes.
Actually, you will dethrone me,
exactly.
Sessa.
I'll be more than happy to.
Finally, I'm no longer the baby. Anyway, so when I got there, originally there were several names tossed around. One was Commish, because I was still a commissioner at that time. One was Gummo, remember?
Yes, Gummo,
Bugsy kept with his Gummo. I couldn't stand it. I said, who knows who Gummo is? He never appeared in any of the Groucho Marx movies, the Marx Brothers.
That's right.
Gummo, for those of you who don't know, was the fifth Marx brother.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he never appeared in any Marx Brothers movies.
Hence why nobody knows who it is.
Right, he was only in vaudeville.
Right.
And I do a lot of impersonations. It's one of the things I enjoy doing. So I did my Groucho Marx impersonation, and that stuck. So I've been Groucho to this day.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I can't wait to see what my nickname ends up being when we get to that point.
Whatever it is, you'll have no choice in it.
That's perfectly fine. I'm just looking forward to becoming a member in the near future. So whatever it is, it's going to be all part of the good fun that we're going to have and everything. Now getting back to Laurel and Hardy itself, and we talk about the Sons of the Desert as one of their most famous classic movies. It's definitely one, that if you're a Laurel and Hardy fan, you had to have seen many times. Probably lost count how many times you've seen it. But I'm sure we all have our individual favorites, shorts and Laurel and Hardy movies. And maybe we could just kind of go around and I'd love to hear, and I'll share mine after you guys go, your favorite short and your favorite movie. And maybe just a quick reason as to why it's your favorite.
Although March of the Wooden Soldiers is an obvious one.
Oh yeah.
My favorite movie is Way Out West. Not only because it has a great, moral story where they're trying to help this woman, Mary Roberts, but they sing in it. And any movie where Stan and Ollie's singing it, I'm into it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And I think maybe, I don't know, for a short, I'm not really sure.
There's so many good ones. It's kind of hard. I don't blame you for being torn on that.
Think about that. Yeah. But Way Out West is my favorite because of the music and because of the story.
It's definitely a classic, no question about it. Brother Voodoo?
There's a couple of shorts I like for the same reason that Stan and Babe, Oliver Hardy was known by his friends as Babe.
Yes, I'm aware of that. Yes.
Stan and Babe play two different characters in these two movies. In Bratz, they play themselves as little kids, as well as the parents.
Yes, they do.
And then in Our Relations, they play their identical twins. That get separated for years.
Yes.
For those two reasons, I like those two shorts. My favorite feature, I think, is definitely Sons of the Desert. I mean, I love March of the Wooden Soldiers. We were invited as a tent to the premiere of the colorized version of March of the Wooden Soldiers that was held at FAO Schwartz in the city
Oh, okay.
many years ago. Lois Laurel, who's Stan's daughter,
Yes.
was there. I spent about 25 minutes talking with her. It's really
I could only
an
imagine.
honor
Yeah.
speaking with her, Lois Laurel Hawes. Excuse me. And so that's a great movie too. And I every Thanksgiving I have to watch it. I usually watch it in black and white and in color. And
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. But I think I have to stick with Sons of the Desert as my favorite.
And one of the best benefits of being a son, especially in the early days, is that you got to meet the actual actors who played with Stan and Ollie, like Felix Knight, who played Tom Tom, and some of the little rascals who were still alive at the time,
Yes.
and some of Stan's relatives, etc. So you don't have that benefit too much any longer because most of these people have passed.
Unfortunately,
But
yes.
back then, I mean, it was like Nirvana. It was great, you know.
Yeah, I had lunch and dinner with Jean Darling.
Right.
In when I was at a European convention several years ago. She was living in Europe, and she came to the convention. She was very, very sweet and generous with her time, and autographed. I bought all her books, and she autographed them to me, and even mailed me one back to the States that wasn't out yet. And she phoned me to make sure I got it. So I have her
That's
number
great.
on my.
That's great. Yeah, we
So
met
that was-
Jerry Tucker, who's one of the little rascals.
Jerry Tucker. Yeah, it's really nice to. So the only ones remaining, if there are any, is they were children at the time of the films.
Yes.
Excuse me. I did want to just mention how I got the name Voodoo, since you asked about
Yes,
that.
please.
So the Sons of the Desert, both internationally and our chapter, at the annual banquets or at the conventions, quite often will entertain ourselves. They call it Sons Entertain. And so at our banquets, which are in April, or at our conventions, which are in the summer, quite often you'll have sons do skits or musical things, comedy, whatever. And when I was a very early member, I think it was my first banquet, I had been really good friends with a professional magician named Kurt Kritzler. He's played Vegas, Atlantic City, all over. Pretty amazing magician. And he prepped me for several months before the banquet with a bunch of magic tricks that were powerful. I mean, just mind-blowing. So I performed. They videotaped me. That tape is around somewhere. And during my performance, one of the guys yelled out, "That was amazing. How did you do that?" And someone yelled out, "It must have been voodoo." Boom. It stuck.
Do
So-
that voodoo.
so
And
that-
the rest, as
so
they
well.
say, is history.
So that's how I got the name Voodoo. But I'm always asked when I go to conventions in Europe, UK, Germany, Netherlands, wherever, should I be afraid of you? And I said, no, Voodoo. First of all, because I had to go to New Orleans and learn all I could about voodoo, because there's a voodoo museum. It's a Christian religion developed from Udon, which is an African religion. It went to the Caribbean, merged with Catholicism, blah, 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 blah. And I learned the whole story of voodoo, but I told him, no, you don't have to be afraid. There's
You do
no
not have to be afraid.
No curse.
Do not be afraid.
Look at my eyes
No
as I tell
cursing.
you.
I love it.
I just wanted to share that
I'm
story.
glad you did. That's a wonderful story. That's great. So, Brian, now the floor is yours. Your favorite short and
Groucho.
your favorite...
Groucho.
Oh, that's right.
We're
Groucho.
right, Groucho while
Yes,
we are here in
of-
our official capacity as
yes,
a Duke.
absolutely. Groucho. Favorite short, favorite movie.
Okay, I always preferred the shorts because I grew up on the shorts. To me, first of all, I loved Hal Roach. And what I liked about the shorts is that they were hysterically funny.
Oh,
The feature
put it
length,
mildly, yeah.
the feature lengths always had to have a story or a love interest going on with some young couple. And
Yeah,
I
of
never,
course.
I didn't want to see that. I want to laugh. So my two favorites are Tit for Tat and Toad in the Hole. I think they are absolutely hysterical. I could watch them every day. They crack me up. If I was going to choose a feature, I would guess Sons of the Desert, and of course March of the Wooden Soldiers, which is actually Babes in Toyland.
Right.
Absolutely.
They didn't change the name until it was
Yes.
syndicated.
Exactly.
But those are my two favorites. When Stan and Babe were alone and doing their thing, and I love the fact that in the shorts you could have so much taking place without any dialogue because they didn't need it. They were just being themselves and being funny. And of course, Stan himself, when he does his thing, would kill me every time.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, Stan Laurel was, probably, from what I've seen and learned over the years and what I've read about them and everything, Stan Laurel was, like really
The genius.
The genius behind the greatness, that we love so much. And I mean, he was just an incredibly talented.
And Babe let him be that.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, and County Hospital. Like, how can I forget about
Yeah,
that?
right.
Oh, yes.
Hard-boiled eggs and nuts. Hard-boiled eggs and nuts.
It's not an easy task to try to pinpoint your favorite short and favorite movie because they are all so good.
Yeah.
But for me, right off the bat, it's not Christmas season in my household without the March of the Wooden Soldiers being played. I have the DVD so I can watch it at my leisure, and I have a ritual. There's certain movies that have to be watched every Christmas season, and March of the Wooden Soldiers is right on the top of that. It's not Christmas in the Sessa household.
Or Thanksgiving.
Pretty much Thanksgiving kicks it all off.
Right.
And so there's no question about that. But beyond that, short for me, I'm tied. There's I love them all, but there's two that stand out that are my personal favorites. Bratz, which you had mentioned, Brother Booth. I mean, how could you not? I mean, how do you not die of laughter watching Bratz? And then the other one that's neck and neck in terms of the laughing that it makes you generate, the Laurel and Hardy murder case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, I can't get enough of that one. As far as the features, again, I love them all, but one that really sticks out is Blockheads.
Yes.
Blockheads,
Yes.
where
Stan
is the veteran.
Yeah, he doesn't realize the war has ended for 20 years, and that was also my father's favorite one. And I remember, many times when we would like on a Friday night especially, my father would say, let's watch Blockheads. And back then we had it on VCR tape, and we'd put it in and we'd watch it, and and we would just laugh as if we had just watched it for the very first time. And it's an absolute classic. And in my opinion, it doesn't get enough mention and notoriety that I think it deserves as being one of their best. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely my personal favorite, not just because my father and I used to watch it together all the time, along with my late brother as well. The three of us used to watch it. But just it's that funny. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just think about it, folks. I mean, he doesn't know that the war has ended for 20 years. Okay, and when he's finally World War I, when that's finally discovered, and I mean, just the hilarity that happens after that. When Ollie goes to visit him at the home and thinks that he lost a leg and is picking. I mean, it's just you have to, if you haven't seen it, I definitely urge everyone to at the very least, watch Blockheads, and you'll understand what we're saying. And I mean, what else can you ask for?
You come home with me, Stan, and my wife will make you a wonderful dinner.
Needless to say,
big juicy steak.
Needless to say, that never happens. But we don't want to give it all away, and But needless to say, hilarity beyond hilarity takes place. And you mentioned about some of the character actors that supplemented their shorts and their movies. And let me tell you, we got to spend a little time talking about, in my opinion, probably one of the most integral character actors of all the Laurel and Hardy flicks and shorts, where as great as the Laurel and Hardy movies have been and will always be, if you remove this gentleman from it, they're still good, but I don't know if they're as good. The late great James Finlayson.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
If he's not in them, I know they're still good, but I don't know if they're as good as we all know them to be these days.
Right.
I mean, Jimmy Finlayson, who, by the way, you would also see in some of the Little Rascal episodes as well. I mean, he was, talk about what he brought to the equation.
And of course, Homer Simpson was sort of like inspired by James Finlayson.
Homer Simpson's Doe.
Inspired
Dan
by James Finlayson.
Castellaneta credits
Right.
Finn
Yeah.
for his Doe
Yeah.
exasperation remark that Homer makes. He credits Finn for that.
Yeah. Just unbelievable, the comedy that, just Jim Finlayson's facial expressions.
Yeah.
I mean, are enough to put you in stitches for
You're
hours.
left now just thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just unbelievable what he brought to the equation. I mean, you talk about, the perfect addition to Laurel and Hardy, and he's in just about every short and feature in one way, shape, or form, if I recall.
Well, quite a few.
Yeah. I mean, almost every one.
Yeah.
You got to give him, some credit.
Oh, God, absolutely.
And let me tell you, Scotland is very, very proud of Finn. Very proud of Finn, because he's from Scotland. Stan was from the northern part of England, but right up by the border, and he actually went to school for a while in Scotland, back and forth. And Finn himself started out on the stage in Scotland and also in the U.S., as did Stan. So they're legitimate actors per se. But I want to say one thing, not to take anything from Finn, but the actors in the 30s considered Oliver Hardy a great actor in the actor's eye, to an actor's eye.
Yes.
His skill, his ability to act, to convey emotions, to evoke emotion from the viewer.
Right? Non-verbal.
From the viewer, he was considered. And Stan has often said, comedy is extremely difficult. It's a lot harder than you would think to do.
Absolutely.
Not everything is funny to everybody.
Yeah. And I believe when Stan Laurel was watching the Laurel and Hardy movies, he'd always keep his eye on Ollie in the movies.
Yeah.
He'd always keep his eye on Ollie.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard that. Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, Finn is great. When we do our toasts at our banquets and at our conventions, we toast Stan, we toast Babe, we toast Finn,
Mae Bush.
we toast Mae Bush.
We don't do Charlie Chase or Charlie Long, but they're very important in the
Charlie,
especially in Sons of the Desert. Charlie Chase.
Mae Bush and Thelma Todd are in a lot of their movies.
Yes.
Billy Gilbert.
Billy Gilbert's another one. Yes.
A number of movies.
He's very heavily in Blockheads also.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
and then there's
Music Box and all that.
Oh.
So many Walter Long.
Right.
The commander in Flying Deuces. I mean.
Yeah, I forget his name at the moment.
There's so many Hal Roach studio actors that contributed to make them great films.
Absolutely.
But as you were saying, Stan really is the man. As a matter of fact, he was pretty much the director, whether he was credited or not in any particular film, as the director of the films.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, he was.
And the wonderful music, just the wonderful music of the movies and films.
Oh,
shorts.
the best.
Just the
Love that
wonderful music. As soon as it comes on.
With you more.
Yeah, wonderful music.
I could not agree with you
Hal
more.
Roach background music. I loved it. As a child, I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. Makes your heart a little lighter,
And for those of you who really like it, you could actually get it. Go on YouTube and search Bo Hunks Orchestra, and they perfectly recreated, even though it doesn't sound as old, and I like the old sound of it, but no matter what.
Saxophones.
Right, yeah. It's as close as you're going to get to that marvelous background music that just defined Hal Roach, Laurel and Hardy, and the Little Rascals.
Tremendous.
Our gang, I should say.
Our gang, yes. And just absolutely tremendous. I couldn't agree with you more on all of that. Now, getting back to the Flying Deuces itself, this wonderful tent that we have here, let's talk a little bit more about I mean, again, putting aside this past year with COVID and everything, kind of putting things on hold, but overall, in addition to the conventions that you mentioned before, Brother Voodoo, talk a little bit more about some of the other activities that the club does throughout the course of a normal year.
Sure. So every tent is different.
Of course.
There is no format or structure or anything except for the 4 officers I mentioned. While some tents may meet twice a year, they put an ad in the paper and they get 50, 100 people show up. They have a big banquet and show movies. Other tents like ours are an intimate group. We consider ourselves a very tightly bonded fraternal group. We are all personal friends, very tightly knit, which is why we don't go looking for members all over the place. Mm-hmm. We feel it would dilute the brotherhood. We have, in answer to your question, we have several events in the fall. Our season runs from September to June.
Okay.
In the fall, we have the anti-vacation vacation, which is...
I've heard a little bit about this, yeah.
we one of our brothers has 200 acres in upstate New York where he has a 4-bedroom log home, whole bunch of sofas where we all go up there and we spend the weekend and we do nothing, hence anti-vacation vacation. We'll go out to dinner, we'll do a little fireworks show for ourselves, maybe we'll smoke some cigars, watch old movies on
Absolutely.
TV, and
Eat
just
and
relax.
drink.
Eat and
This
drink.
guy's name is Bud, and he can recite every Indian tribe in alphabetical order.
Every county in Ireland.
Every county in Ireland in alphabetical order. Every state of our union in alphabetical order. And he's a
president.
yeah,
Every president.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting.
I can see
a lovely
that.
lovely guy who could do stuff like that.
God bless him. I look
Yeah.
forward to eventually meeting him.
We go up to his place in September, the weekend after Labor Day. That's always anti-vacation. Then in December we have our Christmas party, which is lately we've been having it right here in Groucho's basement, having it catered in. But we used to go to a restaurant, but now we have it in, and I think we'll probably keep doing that. Everybody likes. I said we just have food brought in, and then in it's not official, but usually one of the brothers' wives bakes a couple big trays of lasagna.
Yes.
In January or February. It's not an official function, but she usually does that. In March, for St. Patty's Day, our meetings are the 3rd Friday, which is usually right on or near St. Patrick's Day. So we'll have a St. Patrick's Day dinner. We'll have corned beef and cabbage and vegetables and all that.
Etc. Yes.
All that.
All the trimmings.
Then in April will be our annual banquet, usually at the Glen Rock Inn. Always at the Glen Rock Inn, I should say.
Okay.
And then in June, we have our non-canoe trip. It's called the non-canoe trip because it was originally a canoe trip where they'd go to a campground, sleep in tents on the ground, go canoeing and all that. Well, now the founders of the tent are like 80, 81 years old in that time frame.
Yes.
And most of the other members are like, 50s, 60s, 70s. You're the youngest.
40s.
Right. You're the youngest, but most of the members are up there. So we're not sleeping on the ground. We're not sleeping in
Those
tents.
days
I'm
are
not
over.
doing that either.
Those days are over.
It has become the non-canoe trip, and just like the conventions, we go to a different place every year, and we'll go for the weekend, and we'll sightsee around there. Could be in eastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, upstate New York, someplace you can go within 3 hours.
We've been to Cooperstown.
We've been to Cooperstown, Gettysburg,
Amish country.
Okay.
Trenton for the Revolutionary War,
Sure.
Atlantic City. I mean, just every year a different place.
Saratoga Springs.
This year we're going back to Cooperstown. Hopefully, if it's all open.
Yeah.
We were supposed to go last year. Obviously, that was canceled.
Yeah.
But we rebooked, and everything is opening up. So we're hoping to go back up to Cooperstown, and it's always a good time. And that ends our season in June. July and August we're off, and then September we start up again.
Now I must put a caveat because we have about 24 members in the tent before you, and I know that our elders like to keep the membership small, which is understandable.
Yes.
So with you, it'll be 25, and we've recently put a cap on our membership, and we've closed it for now because we don't want to have too many members because that dilutes everything.
Yeah, the
Yes.
intimacy is important to us.
Understood.
But I sort of like was responsible almost for bringing in like the last 10 or 15 members on a spur, you know.
Yeah, he staged a
spur.
literal coup.
And there's
Sounds that way.
there's a Laurel and Hardy short. I forget the name of it, but Stan and Laurel are shanghaiing all these guys. Like Stan and Laurel's actually knocking them out and putting them on the boat. So when we watch that, they'll say, "Oh look, there's Itchy." You know, I'm just like knocking people out and bringing them to the tent. You know, you know.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
So we have a cap on the membership now, but so you're lucky. You're number 25.
Oh,
Not only
I'm-
that, you know, we're
Very honored.
we're space constrained.
Yes.
We
Yes.
were alternating
Yes.
between Brother Frenchie's house up in Ramsey and Groucho's basement. Groucho's much
which is
bigger.
where we are now.
Groucho's is much bigger, so we're more comfortable. But you get 24 guys in Frenchie's,
Yeah.
it's
No, you can't.
You can't.
You
It's
can't.
just-
So
it's too
so
tight.
logistically, that's why we had to cap it.
Yeah.
Logistically.
Understood.
Logistically, and for reasons of, as Itchy said, for intimacy.
Yeah.
So we want to be tightly bonded. Whereas other chapters, they may never see each other in
Right.
between meetings. Most of us see each other one
Yeah.
time or
We're a
another.
very social group.
We're a very social group,
Wonderful.
and we're a true brotherhood in the fraternal
Mhm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Like if somebody needs something, we're there.
we're there.
You know.
Well, that's
So,
good. That's
and,
good.
and
to
that's
know.
how we want it. Other tents are run it their own way.
To each his own.
To
Yeah.
each his own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right up
But
my
we like
alley.
our way.
I definitely like it as well, and I couldn't agree with you more. And to kind of sum it up, and what would you say from your perspective would be like? What do you anticipate for like the future of the organization, the future of this tent, as far as any other things that you guys that the tent may eventually get involved with or look to do on top of what's already been done? Anything in particular?
Interesting question.
Well, one of the things we like doing that we've had to get away from for obvious reasons with the COVID is we like doing shows in libraries, retirement homes, nursing homes. We bring in a slideshow. We show movies. We have Q&A, and we love doing that. And the old folks, when we go to the older people homes and nursing homes and those type places, they love it because they watched those movies in the theaters when they were released, so they love what we're doing, and we really enjoy doing it, and hopefully we'll get back to that once life returns back to pre-COVID.
We also occasionally visit the grave of Patsy Kelly, who was a Hal Roach actress.
Yes,
And
yes.
she's in
Queens.
So we visit
Oh,
her
okay.
sporadically and place something on her grave and
We place
say
flowers,
a few words.
we say a few words,
Yeah.
and then we go out for an Irish lunch in
Right.
tribute to her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we like to do that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I tell you, I can't believe that it took me this long to find out about the existence of this. I have to keep saying that because I just can't imagine how it escaped me until recently, but I'm so glad.
Well, Brian kept saying, "Don't tell Sessa. Don't tell Sessa." So it came out, but
There's
Well-
a new chapter up in Fort Lee
yeah.
that opened. We were at their inaugural film show.
Oh, okay.
They have Fort Lee was before Hollywood. There was Fort Lee.
Movie making capital.
The reason the term cliffhanger refers to the Palisades,
With the Perils of Pauline.
Perils
and
of
all
Pauline, and the Palisades in New Jersey,
Yes.
the cliffs in New Jersey, and Fort Lee was the movie capital before they went to Florida and then Hollywood after that, and so they've established in the last couple of years a chapter in Fort Lee. They have a really nice film viewing auditorium. I don't know if it's done yet or
I don't think it's done yet. I haven't heard that.
yeah,
it's
it's
done,
going to
but
open
should-
soon. I don't know if COVID has held it up, but that's in tribute to the roots of Hollywood in Fort Lee. And also in New Jersey,
check
there's a
that out
chapter in
when
New
it-
Brunswick. Irv Hyatt is the Grand Chief down there.
Okay.
Very active. He's written something like 20 books on Laurel and Hardy, maybe 25. Irv Hyatt has.
And I think their memberships are open
Yeah, yeah. If people are interested,
And it's always New York.
and the New York chapter is always looking for. Unfortunately, where the New York chapter meets in an actors' church, regular church, but for the actors' church in Lower Manhattan, they're blocked for all of last year and so far all of this year.
Right.
Yeah, needless to say.
So they haven't had any meetings, but they've gone to the Zoom, not the Zoom, but the Grand Sheik will do a virtual meeting, and then you go online and you can watch it. People will do the virtual toasts and all that.
So at least they're keeping things going in a virtual fashion for the time being until they're allowed to, to reassemble in person, which will hopefully be soon. Hopefully, we fingers crossed. Needless to say, but again, this is a wonderful opportunity to sit down with you guys tonight to learn more about the history of this organization and how it came to be and what it does and what it has done and what it's looking to do in the future. And I'm again honored to be in the infancy stages of becoming a member, and I look forward to getting to know all of you better and working with all of you and having a lot of fun with all of you and
that you will have
in the near future. But I mean, folks, I got to tell you, again, whatever you're fans of, whether you are Laurel and Hardy fans or not, or Abbott and Costello, Three Stooges, or other classic movies or other classic things, I think we can all agree that having fandom towards something of this nature, or it could just be classic TV or just whatever floats your boat. I think we can all agree that having this in our lives brings us that solitude, that escape, that a great way to unwind, uplifts us and helps alleviate stress in our lives, takes our mind off our problems or life's rigors and struggles, etc. I think we can definitely all agree with that overall general sentiment. And I tell you, I mean, we certainly covered a lot of ground here on the organization, Laurel and Hardy itself, I think there's nothing left to do, but we're gonna, bid everyone a good night, and I think we'll.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
One of the motivations behind us and what we do in appreciating Laurel and Hardy, was those two gentlemen were genuinely kind, sweet people.
Yes,
they
were.
Never fought, despite that Stan and Babe movie that was out a couple of years ago. They had that little tiff. That never happened.
Yeah.
They never fought. They were like brothers and genuinely nice people. They never got crazy rich. I mean, they were comfortable, but they were never rich because actors didn't get paid for reruns and syndication.
Not like today.
Not like today. TV, when this stuff was shown on TV, they didn't get a dime. But they were good-hearted people, kind people, generous people, sweet, loving people, and we want to keep their memory alive. And that's one of the main motivations why we exist.
Yeah, and here's to Stan and Ollie, who actually saved the wonderful Toyland from the vicious bogeymen. I mean, how great is that?
Absolutely.
How great is that?
Absolutely, and it was of course towards that final scene of the March of the Wooden Soldiers, it was of course Stan, with the idea of clicking on the soldiers.
Right.
And
had he not screwed up the order in the first place,
exactly.
You got the order all wrong.
That's
I couldn't give those things to my children to play with.
Well, those
Put them back in the box and get out of here. You're through.
Good one.
But they saved Toyland.
But they saved, not only they saved Toyland, they saved everybody from the bogeyman.
Exactly.
And they finally conquered, of course, the evil Mr. Barnaby.
Exactly.
And
Christmas present in the middle of July.
But I don't love him.
Sorry, we're getting nuts now.
Oh,
but that was good, though.
It's very easy for that to happen, and as we bid everyone a farewell, and I hope you've enjoyed this, this celebration of Laurel and Hardy and learning about the Sons of the Desert and specifically this tent of Northern Jersey, the Flying Deuces. I really think there's only one thing left for us to do and that is, let's gather and watch some Laurel and Hardy movies. What do you say, right?
Are we bidding everybody goodbye?
We're
I didn't
gonna
know there was a bid. I
Should we
say
do our song?
$5.
Should we do our song?
$5.
Can we do our song?
Sure.
By all means.
Do our song?
Which one? Oh, good morning to you.
We are the sons of the desert, having the time of our lives, marching along 2,000 strong, far from our sweethearts and wives. God bless them. Tramp, 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 the boys are marching and dancing to this melody. Sons of the desert are we.
Oh!
There we go, folks. Everyone, thank you very much. Don't forget, folks, please check out my YouTube channel, Anthony M. Sessa, where you will find this episode and all of the prior episodes of Sessa's Corner, and of course all of the upcoming episodes.
And like and subscribe.
Like and absolutely.
And click the little bell icon.
If you're not going to listen to me,
I gotta
listen
tell
to
them everything.
If you're not going to listen to me, listen to Groucho. Like and subscribe, hit the bell icon. Thank you so much for all of your ongoing support of Sessa's Corner. Like I've said from the beginning, you never know where we're going to be emanating from. You never know what the topic or what the spotlight will be. And needless to say, you can count on the fact that sooner or later, Sessa's Corner will be coming either directly to you or definitely to a place very
A corner near you.
Exactly. Thank you, Groucho. Thank you, Brother Voodoo. Thank you, Brother Richie. Thank you to the Sons of the Desert. Thank you to the Flying Deuces. Thank you, Laurel and Hardy, for what you've brought to us over the years. And rest assured, we will keep your memory alive forever and ever. Salute, everyone. Thank you again.
Salud.
Have a
Salud.
great night and stay safe.
And please take all your belongings before you leave the theater.
Yeah.